Next man up, 102.5, The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport. No Parker Kelly quite yet. Ian Safar on the board. Might need some push-ups from PK today.
Oh, yeah.
We are broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Never mind. Parker, he made it just in time. He got in just in time.
That's a 10 push-up.
Well, we might have to go to the monitor for that one and see if Parker got in time. It is a TD Thursday. We've got Turron Davenport in for the full show today. TD, how's it going?
It is going great, man. I almost had to do some push-ups myself. You know, that Kroger self-checkout line is something terrible. Well, why is it? And I'm not complaining. It's just something that's funny to me. The digital coupons never work.
Yeah.
But I'm a penny pincher, so I always got to make sure
that,
you
got to at least give it a shot, right?
Yeah, man, I saved 50 cents on some oatmeal now. Come on now. 50 cents on a $2 purchase. That's doing something.
No free shout outs, but I use the app and clip my coupons on there all the time.
You know what? It never works for me. Like, as I'm walking through, I take the picture and I hit the link, and it never works. But it's all good, man. It's all good. We are here. Now, how are you?
I am great. It is a busy week, of course, coming off the draft. You got rookie minicamp coming up tomorrow. The football never stops. There is no offseason.
Who was I telling that? I was at the gym, and a young lady had asked me, she's like, what do you do when the season's over? I said, oh, there's plenty.
Right.
There is plenty. And ran down the schedule, and she was like, what? I can't believe it. And I said, yeah, man.
I mean, I guess June is like the one kind, or maybe early July is where there's not too much going on leading up to training camp, but the NFL has done a nice job of making it a year-long reality TV show.
They really do. And it's like June, early July, like, that's when you schedule your wedding. That's when you do like your vacations, like all of that, man. June is like the third week of June into the first week of July.
Right. And then it's like you catch your breath and then it's go until January.
Boy, I tell you what, you blink your eyes and
with the Titans lately, it's go until like late January because there's a GM or a coaching search going on right after the season.
Oh, the mess.
You hope maybe not this year. We'll get into the Chad Breaker stuff at some point today as well, as he stepped down earlier this week. I do want to get an update. How are your Mets doing? I have not been able to pay much attention.
Man, listen.
Is it getting any better?
I watched the game yesterday, and it was like 14-2. Juan Soto went 3 for 5, so there's something to take solace in, but the pitching is terrible.
Yeah,
right. Freddie Peralta is pitching today. See if they could, be able to win the series after getting spanked last night. But it's not good, man. Cody Sanger's on the IL.
Frankie's on the IL too, right?
Yes, Lindor is. I found out he doesn't like being called Frankie.
Really?
Yeah. Get out of here, man. But anyway, David Peterson, he allowed 7 runs in the fourth. His ERA is like 1,000. Like it's bad. It's bad.
I've not been able to watch the Tigers play for the last week because they were in Cincinnati and now they're in Atlanta, so it's blacked out for me. And I'm kind of glad
they got to Scooble last night.
Well, they hit a home run off him in the first, and then he shoved for 6 innings after that.
Yeah.
But for the second time this week, Kenley Jansen comes in with a 1-run lead and gives up a 2-run homer to walk it off. Get that guy off of my team.
Yeah.
Get Kyle Finnegan into the 9th inning. If Joe Rexroad's listening, I'm sure he agrees. Let's get into the Titans here. TD, I've thought it was funny for about a week now that we sat here all show last Thursday, and I did ask you the question about, is a wide receiver possible at 4? And we kind of like blew past it a little bit. Like, maybe possible, but it's unlikely. And then, of course, the Titans shock everybody and take Carnell Tate. I think it's grown on me. It was a surprising pick, of course. I think we expected with Arvell Reese on the board at 4 that was going to be the pick. But the Titans have explained this week that there was a consensus for them that they felt like Carnell Tate was a complete receiver who can not only be a deep threat for Cam Ward, but also is a polished route runner who's going to be able to help on third downs. And it's grown on me. I don't think he is the type of prospect who you usually take at wide receiver in the top 5, but I do understand wanting to help your young quarterback and getting him the best wide receiver in this year's draft.
Yeah, and that's what it was all about. They wanted to get who they felt was the most ready and immediate impact player for the quarterback. I think when you look at Carnell Tate, and it is interesting because, the way I figured, okay, trade back and then you'll be able to get him. Apparently they felt like he wasn't going to last past 7.
Yeah.
So there was only so much trading back they could do, and that was if somebody offered, right? Because you look at pick 6, I think it was.
The Chiefs traded up to 6.
I don't know that they would have traded up to 4 to get Mansour Delaney. Delaney.
Right.
But, here's the thing when you look at it all. I thought it was really I've never heard a 3-down reference given to a receiver.
Yeah.
I've always just taken for granted, hey, the
right.
receivers on the field.
If you're wide receiver 1, you're going to play pretty much every snap.
But I think from their perspective, what they're trying to say, what Dave Ziegler actually explained pretty well was the fact that he is a bigger guy that moves like a smaller guy that can get open quickly and help you that way on 3rd downs to convert it so you get a whole nother set of downs. But I thought that was good. And this team, and I wrote it in my my take part of the pick on draft day, they had three passing plays of 40 yards or more.
Yeah.
3.
Carnell Tate had what, 5 last year?
5 touchdowns.
40-yard touchdowns. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the number is on plays of 40 yards or more, but he had 5 touchdowns of 40 yards. He matches what they need. Now, I probably would have went Reese, but I think it says a lot that a Robert Saleh-led team didn't go Reese, it went Tate. And I think when you look at all of that, it'll let you know, yeah, it is unanimous. Like, that whole group was on it. And if you watch the video when he got picked, Greg Lewis is in the corner and he's having a personal party, like a private party. It's funny, man.
They filled out that wide receiver room nicely. I mean, you have Carnell Tate, who is expected to be wide receiver 1, right? You take a guy that high, that's where you expect him to be. Calvin Ridley is your vet in the room. And speaking of Calvin Ridley, I do think, looking back, keeping Calvin Ridley is going to be really important for this team because you heard from Alec Iamaner and Chim Dike last year how valuable he was just learning how to be a pro last year in training camp. I think that could be very valuable for Carnell Tate as he enters the league.
Absolutely. It's going to be really valuable for him because he'll see day in and day out. And what was pretty cool is he actually mentioned Ridley as one of the guys that he was like, see Rid. And so it wasn't like on some, he mentioned it that way. So, he was, telling the truth along with Steph Diggs and Devontae Adams. And to have that right there in front of you every day to push you, you can't take a rep off because he's a veteran, established veteran. He doesn't take reps off. So
right.
That's a good effect on the young fella.
And we've talked about this week, TD, of a lot of people have pointed to, all right, you got Carnell Tate and Keldrick Falk in the 1st round. You could have gotten Arvell Reese and Denzel Boston. And a lot of people have maybe felt like that was better value. Coming out of the draft, I think that's what I would have done. But I've been trying to think of it and put myself in the mind of that coaching staff. Reese isn't as stereotypical, prototypical of a fit in a solid defense as a Keldrick Falk is. And I think Carnell Tate isn't quite as good of, or is a better fit for a Brian Daboll offense than Denzel Boston, just based on what we've seen in the past. So maybe the fit and the scheme played a role in that as well. They felt Carnell Tate was going to be better for their offense and Keldrick Falk would be better for their defense.
100%. The fit into the scheme played a role in all of that. And I think when you look at Reese, the big question was just that, where are you going to play him?
Right.
Now, one of the things that I got, now I don't know how accurate it is, but one of the things that I got was the intention was they had an idea exactly how they wanted to play him.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. That's where it just hit me. It wasn't that the Titans had an idea, weren't sure how they were going to play him. It was overall, there were so many GM, because that's exactly what it was. Because I remember asking about that, and the personal Titans part of it was brushed aside. And overall league, well, the thing is with Reese is some people see him here, some people see him there.
Yeah,
that's what it was.
Right.
But I think when you look at the whole picture, using him like Will Anderson Jr. would have been a cool plan, but Will Anderson Jr. had more reps.
Yes.
Rushing
He
the
was
passer
viewed
coming
as
out.
a pure pass
Yeah,
rusher.
so it's different, you know, but at the end of the day, Falk and the length that he brings, you heard the Eric Armstead comparisons, who, you know, he had a 10-sack season with Saleh. So, you know, there's that vision as far as the inside-outside ability as well. And the length that he brings. We know that Saleh loves length on the outside. He loves versatility because he wants to rotate the guys. So, yeah.
Saleh said 60% snaps for a lot of his defensive linemen, and having Keldrick Falk along with John Franklin Myers, it's kind of like you can use those guys in a lot of different ways up front, which is what Robert Saleh wants to do. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We want to hear from you. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. You can text, you can call. You can also let us know in the YouTube chat if you've got any questions or thoughts. The Game Nashville on YouTube. Again, Talk to TD, as always, is at 10 a.m. So get your questions in for Turron Davenport. Can be anything, and we will get to all of those at the top of the hour. Lots of Titans talk today. The draft, rookie minicamp starts tomorrow. Chad Brinker steps down. We will get to all of it over the next 3 hours. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up. 102.5 The Game. Today, the Nashville Sounds take on the Norfolk Tides, the AAA affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles at First Horizon Park. First pitch set for 6:35, and you can catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Family Leisure and Social Cantina. I was waiting for you to put the headphones on. Hear Parker's intro of the day.
I heard it.
We didn't.
That was voted one of the best all-time samples. It was pretty cool. So that song, I believe it was an Isaac Hayes song, I want to say. And they took it, the RZA, the producer, he took it and he sped it up just a little bit. And that's how you got that beat. Added some stuff. The whole idea, like the way they make the beats and stuff, like it's just amazing to me. Like I know it's off topic, but sorry.
We got 3 hours. We got time.
There's a song, one of my favorites. It's actually one of the best hip hop songs ever, Shook Ones by Mobb Deep. And the way it begins, like it's so here the dude, the producer Havoc, he was making ramen noodles and he went to turn the burner on. And a lot of times, you know, in lower income, it takes a little bit for the burner to go, the pilot to go. And it was going. So he took that and made it into the intro to a song.
The creativity with some of that stuff is crazy. Like I got into a rabbit hole a couple of weeks ago of like samples and like how some producers will go back into like the 60s and 50s and you take just one little snippet of a song and you either speed it up or slow it down and they make it into a whole new thing.
New thing.
The creativity is ridiculous.
Unbelievable.
Let's this question from 8600, I wanted to get into this too, because we've heard a lot about what the Titans' decision looked like. That they had Tate as the highest ranked player on their board when they came on the clock at 4 over Reese, over Styles. I did see Jeremy Fowler put out like an Intel article for all 32 teams today. He said that David Bailey would have been considered at 4 if he was there. But we haven't heard, and I don't know if you've heard anything on this, TD. Would the Titans have taken Jeremiah Love if he was there at 4? If it was Love, if Reese went 3rd to the Cardinals and it was Love versus Tate, which one do you think they would have valued more?
That's the question that I wonder. We tried to get that, but it was just like, hey, we knew that
he was going 3rd.
So it wasn't even. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, because the order I got was different from, you know, so I'm not exactly sure.
Right. I mean,
because Tate, you know, and what I gathered, Tate was, you know, behind Bailey and Reese. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah, it's a question that we probably will never know the answer to. And I think the good news for Titans fans who are in love with Love is that it wasn't a choice, right? Like if Reese did go 3rd and the Titans chose Tate over Love, those two guys' careers would have been compared forever because the Titans would have left Jeremiah Love on the board to take a wide receiver who, I mean, by all accounts, was not as good of a prospect as Jeremiah Love pound for pound, right? But obviously positional value plays into it as well. So Cornell Tate, the pick at number 4. For Cam Ward, how do you think that this front office has done in surrounding him with talent? I really like the wide receiver room now. I think you've slotted those guys into decent spots here. It does really just depend on, is Cornell Tate a 1,200-yard receiver throughout his career, or is he more of like a 900 to 1,000-yard receiver? I think he's going to be a good player. It's just a question of, is he a great player that you expect to get in the top 5?
Yeah, I think he's going to be right in that 1,000-yard range. But the thing is, he has a complete package, and he's very polished. He knows how to set the routes up. He knows how to, you know, get vertical, make the contested catches. I think he does bring the full package. And he's somebody that's going to block too, you know, in the run game. So you're getting a whole lot with him. I think he's going to be a really good player, but you know, that receiver room, it's dependent upon him finding a way to make things happen. Because if he doesn't develop into, you know, what a lot of people think he can develop into, they're going to be in trouble.
I agree. I think you finally invested in wide receiver early in the draft, but you did it in, I get unconventional might not be the right word, but you did it with a guy who wasn't seen as a consensus slam dunk home run type of prospect. And so that Mike Borgonzi, with the picks that he's made in the last couple of years, there's a lot of promise for these guys, but they have to go out and execute and they have to develop. And you mentioned Greg Lewis. I do think if you look at the position coaches on this team, I mentioned Carmen Brasillo is obviously a guy who's going to have a lot on his plate. You have to get development out of the young players out there. JC Latham, of course, is number one at right tackle, but the guys you've got on the interior, you want to get more out of Dan Moore. But I do think if I'm looking for the second most important position coach for this year for the Titans, maybe it's Shea Tierney, the quarterback's coach, but Greg Lewis would be high on that list for me, with Carnell Tate, of course, being your number one focus, but also the development of Iamaner, DK, Oliver, et cetera.
Yeah, they all have to take the next step, and I think that's going to be big for Ward's development. So, yeah, I mean, it's a huge part of it. The good thing for them is he's a coach that has worked with some, pretty good receivers and has a nice understanding of it, having played the position himself. It's funny with the Vikings, he actually wore 17, the number that Carnell Tate and DK, we'll see what happens.
I was about to say, Carnell Tate said he'll pay for it.
Yeah, I asked him about that, and he was like, "Man, DK was rookie all pro. I don't know." And then he just smiled, and I said, "Okay, we'll see." But he said the number is just one that was given to him when he was younger, and he just has rolled with it. It doesn't have any set significance like his mom's birthday or anything like that.
Right. When Corey was in a couple weeks ago and we were locked in on Jeremiah Love, we went through what Jeremiah Love was going to wear if he became a Titan. And there were a couple of good options. I do wonder what Carnell Tate might go with. There are some good numbers available in like the low teens. Like I think 13, 14, 15 are all available. It wouldn't shock me if maybe DK gave it up and became 13 or something like that.
Yeah, because he wore 13.
Did he wear 13 in Wisconsin, maybe?
Yeah, I think it was somewhere he wore it.
I think you're right. Not that this is a big deal, but I do think, he wore 13 at Wisconsin. So maybe that's what it ends up being. And Tate goes to 17 and DK goes to 13. But I did think it was funny that Carnell Tate said, "Hey, I'm willing to pay for it. I'll make a deal here for you for 17." This roster as it stands right now, how do you feel about the trajectory of this rebuild, right? I heard Robbie and Joe talking about, there's no guarantees about this coaching staff with Robert Saleh, right? Like he was 20-36 with the Jets. But I think you look and you say, I thought Robbie said it great. There are adults in the room now. These guys all have experience doing what they're doing at the NFL level. And you've built up this roster through free agency and the draft. How do you feel the ascension of this team has gone so far? And what do you think expectations might be heading into 2026 now that we have a clearer view of the roster?
Well, I think, honestly, Saleh, the whole perspective on him has been handicapped. Because look how bad the quarterback situation has been.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is it's not like they didn't try to build around him. Signed Corey Davis.
Drafted Garrett Wilson, Sauce Gardner.
Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, who was a pretty decent he was a good prospect coming out. Breece Hall, like they added. Ali Verituck, like they added players.
Mekhi
Becton, but it just didn't work out. And I think the big part of that was the quarterback situation. And go figure, the quarterbacks that he had, one is down there in Miami backing up Malik Willis, and then the other one is, what's the Hayabasha team?
He is holding the Steelers hostage right now.
Yeah. He got the Steelers looking at, Will Howard as a possible starter and Drew Aller. So I think that plays a big part of it. Is he, Buddy Ryan 2.0? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that he's a very good defensive coach. Let's see how having a quarterback will, help him win games.
Yeah.
See what he could do, because I believe Cam is a quarterback. He's a guy that you can win with.
Yeah, I think Robert Saleh, there is an element of you've got to prove it to us, right? Like you've got to prove that it was more a Jets issue than a you issue in your first stint. But you're right. Like Zach Wilson was his starting quarterback for the first 2 years, and they still won, 7 games in each of those seasons, 6 or 7, somewhere around there. And then Aaron Rodgers tears his Achilles on the third play of his third season. And his fourth season, he had Rodgers back, but he was fired 5 games in with Rodgers coming off a torn Achilles.
Yeah.
So it's like when you look at it, he had 5 real games with a non-Zach Wilson quarterback. And, I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and this coaching staff. But again, the team has won 6 games in the last 2 years. You've got to see it on the field. You've got to see this team get back to being – you don't have to be a playoff team this year, but be competitive. Be a team that isn't just a automatic win on the schedule when fans are looking at the it's like, all right, we play the Titans week 11, chalk that up as a W.
Yeah, they're kind of like the team everybody wants to schedule for homecoming and senior night.
Yeah. You're not wrong. I mean, they have won 6 games in the last 2 years. They've won 12 games in the last 3.5 calendar years. So they need to show it before we can believe it. But I do think that the roster and the coaching staff are obviously in a much better place than they were a year ago. 615-737-1025. Continuing to take your thoughts on our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, at the top of the hour, we will give you your chance to talk to TD. So get your questions in for Turron. Again, we'll get to all of those coming up at 10 a.m. Talked about Carnell Tate. Let's get into Keldrick Falk coming up next, and what this Titans defense might look like under Robert Saleh with some new talent added, Falk and Hill, in the draft last weekend. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up. 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you on your Thursday morning,
Slice of pizza,
reacting to the Titans draft and much more.
Me, MC Ricky D. Said them on the lead.
I like to give TD as many opportunities to do a little karaoke as we can on the show.
That crazy knowledge.
We got a suggestion for some bump music on the text line, Parker.
Let's hear it.
0178 says, let's do Tennessee by Arrested Development as a bumper for TD Thursdays.
Oh, yeah. I remember that video, man. Tennessee. Yeah, that was a dope song. We could do that.
All right, maybe we get that coming up next in the next segment. Let's go back to the phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our good friend Trey has called in. Trey, good morning. What you got for us today?
Good morning. Good morning. Hey, I've been listening to y'all, constantly for the last couple of days, and y'all seem a little bit pessimistic about the Titans, and I'm just sitting here trying to be optimistic about, who they pick and everything, and the Cornell tape about him not being a number one, and, he could be possibly a number two going into a number one. I believe that, and he only did catch, like his top was only like 50 balls, for a season over at Ohio State. And I hope he can develop into a number one. I don't see him being a number one. And that's a contributing factor because I really don't know how good Cam Ward is going to perform. Everything lies on Cam Ward. If he performs, he can't do what he did last year. And this is also going to be the season of can he be taught a different playbook as well. But I'm trying to be optimistic. I'm trying to be optimistic about it, y'all. But I don't know. It all depends on what Cam Ward. For me, it all lies on Cam Ward, what he's going to do for the team. If he'll go out there and lay an egg, then I know the season will be a bust. But I hope Coach Sala, teaches him what to do out there. And I hope he has patience back there to see the receivers and get the ball out to them. But everything for me lies on Cam Ward. And I love y'all. Thank y'all. Have a good day.
You too, Trey. Thanks for the call. I agree with the point he made there at the end of, a lot of the Titans' success this season is going to ride on whether Cam Ward develops.
It's all on that. If he doesn't, and that's why you got to have the right guy in place that can handle all that. Because you got the organization, the city's on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Can he shoulder that burden? That's the thing that remains to be seen. I think he can because he's shown like last year, and even just not just his play, but the mindset. Man, you got to lose to learn to win.
Yeah.
Man, I'm not going to allow this to be too much pressure. My dad woke up at 4 a.m. every day doing the job that he did. I watched him do that. I get to wake up and play football. The perspective, the understanding, I think those are all part of the makeup and why this guy, in my opinion, is right for this job and why he's going to help this organization. Maybe not get a Super Bowl, but they're going to be respectable again.
Well, Saleh said it when I think it was at owners' meetings, the quote about, I have a hard time seeing that guy fail with the work ethic and the attitude that he brings every single day. Yeah. And that's part of it, right? Like, obviously the physical talent is going to be a large part of it too. And the mental processing and all of that. There are a lot of ifs around this Titans team. And I think when Trey says we're being pessimistic, I think we're just being realistic, right? Like, you're looking at this Titans team, and I think it's clear to say this team is better. Right? With what they've done in free agency and in the draft, this team is better. The Athletic had them as the worst team in the league. I don't understand that. Mm-hmm. Again, you got to prove it, but show me how the Miami Dolphins are a better team than the Tennessee Titans right now. I have no idea. But I do think you have to look and say a lot of the optimism around this team is based off of ifs, right? If Cam Ward develops, if J.C. Latham takes a step forward, if Carnell Tate has a big rookie season, if the defense takes a big step under Robert Saleh. There's a lot of ifs. And sure, if all of them end up being successful, this team could be pretty good. But I don't think you're going to see everything come up Titans this year, right? Some of them are going to grow great. Some of them probably aren't. We'll just have to see how it all plays out on the field.
Yeah, and that's the thing, the ifs, the question marks. And rarely does everything just fall into place, right? So that is something. I mean, look, 2019, that's what you got to see. Things just fell into place.
Yeah.
It just everything worked
Look
out.
at the Patriots last year. That is an example of everything that they needed to happen happened for them. Their quarterback took a huge leap in year 2. Their coach brought a level of toughness to the team. The free agents that they brought in, Milton Williams and some of the other guys, they did help that defense take a step forward. And of course, schedule plays in your favor. Your opponent in the AFC Championships quarterback goes down with a phantom ankle injury at the end of the divisional round. Like everything fell in their place and they got to the Super Bowl. It's rare that everything is going to fall into place, but you think some of it will. And I think the Titans will be a better team because of it. The defense has a lot of optimism around it right now. Not just because Robert Saleh is in there, but you look at the additions that they've made. You've got 2 starting level cornerbacks right now, which you couldn't say for most of last year. You have waves of players on the defensive line. Anthony Hill in the second round. I think
great pick.
As Mike Borgonzi said, that is your prototypical linebacker for Robert Saleh.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a lot of optimism about the defense. What do you think that this unit can be in year 1 under Robert Saleh with some of the additions that they've made?
I think they're going to be very good. I don't know about a high sack team, but you're not going to run the ball against them. Good gracious.
Yeah.
Keldrick Falk, Jermaine Johnson on the edges, rotating Femi in.
Simmons
and then you got
JFM on the middle.
What? And you're rotating Solomon Thomas in.
Right.
I like the pass rush situation. Nobody's talking about him, but I like Jalen Harrell in a wide 9. Now, everybody's like, oh, they don't have. Well, Jalen Harrell, I think could do something. Now, are we talking about 11 sacks? No, but I mean 6 to 8 sacks. If he gets that, you got a guy that's a part of a nice system.
Yeah.
So I think overall that defense is going to be good. I just wonder about the nickel position. I personally feel Alontae Taylor, and I like Marcus Harris. Don't get it twisted. But I think Alontae Taylor is better as a nickel than he is on the outside. So we just got to see how that whole thing works for him.
Yeah, that was surprising to me last weekend that the Titans did not take anybody in the secondary. Because it's not just nickel, right? Like nickel is the spot that when you look at the starting secondary, there's a little bit of a gap there. Marcus Harris can fill that spot, but you've got 2 starting corners, you got 2 starting safeties, but the depth is also like Tony Adams is your 3rd safety. Maybe Robert Saleh believes in him, but like, do we?
Yeah, he really likes him.
Do we think Tony Adams is going to be able to be that 3rd safety consistently and maybe step in the nickel behind Taylor and Flott at cornerback? I mean, they got Williams from the Chiefs. What else is there though? They got Micah Robinson, who
I like Michael Robinson.
I like. He's a good player, but that's a guy you picked up on waivers last season. It's
not.
It's not a guy you can count on and say, all right, that's cornerback 4. We're good there. I was a little surprised that when they take Jackie Marshall in the 6th round, that wasn't a corner. I know you got to do what the board tells you to do, but they're loaded on the defensive line. What's going to help you more, adding your 5th defensive tackle or another cornerback who can rotate in and probably help you on special teams?
Yeah, and I think that's really going to be what they got to figure out. And, I mean, you still have the second free agency, June 1st, a whole bunch of things. But, I mean, you're not adding too many. Like A.J. Brown is probably going to be the biggest name to do something that late, June 1st in a long time.
Right.
DeAndre Hopkins,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Whatever. But, I think when you look at what they had, like, this is it, and looking at this, I got to send an email to get them to get this darn depth chart right, because they got me looking crazy on ESPN.com. We're going to get that fixed, folks. We're going to get you set up.
I want to see what it looks like.
It got Joshua Williams at right corner, Tony Adams starting at free safety, Alontae Taylor at nickel.
Kevin Winston's the backup.
Listen, folks, they didn't get that from me. All right. They ain't get it from me. We won't get it fixed though.
They got Jordan Elliott starting at defensive tackle, Keldrick Falk backing up, which I mean, I guess it's not horrible.
Yeah, I didn't see as many issues with that. But
Cody Barton starting at Mike, with Anthony Hill Jr. as a backup. Yeah. And I get it on the offensive line. You got to go with what you know, I guess, at that point. And you put Schlotman and Volson just because they're the veterans there. But yeah, that is funny. 615-737-1025. We will get to your phones coming up next, and some of your thoughts as well on what the Titans could look like, what stage they're at as they go through this rebuild. 615-737-1025. All of our offseason coverage is brought to you by Tennessee Brewworks. From kickoff to last call, Tennessee Brewworks, the official craft beer of the football offseason on ESPN 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. Finishing up the first hour on this TD Thursday. Your chance to talk to TD coming up at 10. We actually might start a little early here because we got some people on the phones, but get any questions that you have for TD in 615-737-1025. Quickly before we go to the phones, the Titans just announced they have waived 6 players to make room for some of their undrafted free agents. Nobody all that surprising here. Isaiah Rakes, the nose tackle, Cam Riley, linebacker, Clay Webb, the guard, Blake Watson at running back, Nate Lynn at linebacker. The only one that actually stood out to me was Ollie Gay at edge. But with how deep that defensive line is now, I guess he kind of felt expendable with how much resources and free agency in the draft that you put into that defensive front.
Yeah, I think that's really what it boils down to. You traded length for length, right?
Yeah.
Got a younger, long guy
right
to replace Gay.
Yeah.
And Falk over, but and another thing, Falk has the thickness to bump inside and give you some reps there, whereas Ali Gay didn't necessarily. I think he was like 260, I want to say, but.
And Ollie Gay wasn't a horrible replacement level player when he got in there. But as you build up we're talking about the rebuild and trying to build this roster up. As you build up the roster, those are the guys that you hope don't have to be on your team anymore. Nothing against Ollie Gay, but like Ollie Gay, Mason Kinsey. We just had a Wes from Hermitage text about Xavier Restrepo. Like those are the guys that when they're not on your team, it shows that your team is getting better. And so a little bit surprising to see him cut this early in the process, but Ollie Gay was the only name that really stood out to me. Speaking of undrafted free agents, quickly, we were talking about depth in the secondary. Latrell McCutcheon is a guy that a lot of people have pointed to in this Titans undrafted free agent class. I know Tyron Montgomery from John Carroll is another guy.
Story, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's really cool. D3 guy who is who's going to get a chance in the NFL. A lot of people thought he was going to get drafted.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Love my D3 guys.
Yeah, for sure. He didn't even he started football late.
Yeah.
He didn't even play in high school.
Right.
His story saying he lost his mom a couple years ago, but he is that Ron Darling? Look at Ron Darling. His story is pretty good. There's I'll post it. SC Featured did a 10-minute thing on it.
Yeah.
Really good.
I'll have to check that out. I'm excited to see what he can do this weekend, but McCutcheon is the one I think might have a legitimate shot at the roster, just given how thin the secondary is. And he is another guy who a lot of people thought was going to hear his name called out of Houston.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's a guy that, when you look at got the length, he could come in and he'll play on the outside and give him an option there. You have these guys that come. Now the only thing is, I hope he comes in and has a good rookie minicamp.
Yeah,
and has a good OTAs minicamp, but spins it to actual training camp. Because I saw it before where you had guys come in and they look so good, and then you're like, all right, the pads are on. Where is he?
That's kind of what happened with Restrepo last year, right? Like OTAs, rookie minicamp, everyone's like, man, did the Titans get themselves a steal? He was making plays. And then training camp, when, everybody's in the room, you're getting reps with the threes, he kind of just disappeared. So I agree with you. These undrafted free agents might stand out over the next couple of months, but they've got to keep that going through training camp to have a chance to make the 53.
Exactly. Who was it? Judy Lolly, Gabe Judy Lolly.
Yeah, right.
I remember, man, watching him, and I'm like, oh, this dude is all right. And, he had a solid camp, but it was different once, camp started, training camp, that is. So hopefully McCutcheon could have a better. I don't even think Judy Lolly's in the league, man. I thought he was league worthy, but nevertheless.
It's so tough to make the 53 as an undrafted free agent because there's no investment in you, right? Like, you're at a disadvantage because anybody who has signed a contract in free agency or even a 7th round draft pick, team has put some level of investment into you. With the undrafted free agent, you can cut ties and there no harm, no foul.
No harm,
So
no foul.
it's
See you later.
It's definitely an uphill climb for any of those guys. But rookie minicamp starting tomorrow over at Vanderbilt Health Sports Park as the Titans will get to see their rookies in the building for the first time. Let's go to the phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Gil from California is called in. Gil, thanks for waiting. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, y'all. How y'all doing this morning?
Good morning. Where are you in Cali? What side? Where?
I'm out here in Pasadena, about like 10 to 15 minutes out of LA.
Okay, that's what's up, by the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, right over there by the Rose Bowl. You're right.
Yeah.
AKA heaven. Heaven on earth.
It's always good to tap in with y'all, man. I think the Titans is in a good place right now. Everybody's main concern is the offensive line, which is mine too. But how I'm looking at it, it's going to be like a Survivor type thing on the TV show when you put these guys up in front of Jeffrey Simmons and John Franklin Myers. When the pads come on, because you know how Jeffrey Simmons is in practice, we'll actually know what we need and what we need to do going forward. Because I look at it like these guys are smart, so we could just start off by not getting any holding penalties and offside, and maybe get the running game going. And then as the season goes on, they can kind of open up the playbook, and then Cam Ward can kind of play it like a chess match. And I think once they can get it to that point, we'll be good. But we got a lot of money to spend. Every year, you never know what happens. This is the NFL. We don't know who's going to become available in between now and when the season starts. Some players are going to rookies are going to show up, and maybe a guard or a center may become available. You never know. But I think after that first about the second pad of practice, Jeffrey Simmons and Franklin Myers are going to show them what they need, because our weakest point on offense is our strongest point on defense. So we're going to go from there. I'm ready.
That's a good point, Gil. That's a very good point, where the measuring stick is an early measuring stick, and you're going to be able to see. Now, I would say if I'm Jeffrey Simmons, I'm not trying to take a whole bunch of reps in one-on-ones at camp, but I will take some and show them what's up. But I think that's going to be a quick exposure for your Fernando Carmona, for your Jackson Slater, who got exposed last year.
Yeah.
For Cordell Vinson, who is coming in and going to get to see these guys now.
Pat Coogan.
At Pat Coogan. Yep. And to Gil's point, what he's referencing is that second free agency, that June 1st, where you don't know who's going to come available after seeing the depth chart kind of fall into place with the draft and the new players coming in. So that's a really good point that he made there.
Yeah, I do think it's trial by fire for these offensive linemen having to face Big Jeff and John Franklin Myers in that group every day. Thanks for the call, Gil. Appreciate it. I think with Dave Ziegler's press conference the other day, my ears perked up at a couple of things that he said about the offensive line. One, he talked about free agency, talking about all the money that's involved, and these guys have multiple offers. That tells me that they did try and address the interior offensive line with a veteran player, but just kind of got outbid, or that there were other opportunities that were more attractive to somebody else. And also, the first name that he mentioned when asked about the offensive line was Cordell Volson. And I wonder if he has the inside track to that starting right guard spot, given the experience that he has starting in Cincinnati.
It sounds like it, because usually the first guy you mention is either the one that you have in place, right? In mind to be in place, or it's the one that you have the biggest question about. So it's one of those two. But either way, Cordell Volson is front and center on his mind. You could tell that.
Yeah, I think Jackson Slater is going to get an opportunity to compete at both center and guard. Of course, you got Coogan and Sloatman at center. You've now got Carmona at right guard. But Volson does have the pedigree, at the very least, having started 4 seasons with the Bengals, or 3 seasons with the Bengals during his time in Cincinnati. So that's going to be one of the focal points as training camp gears up later on in the summer. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. It is now your chance to talk to TD. Send your questions in on our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, or on our YouTube chat, The Game Nashville on YouTube. We will get to all of them coming up over the next 30 minutes. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up. 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, the game, second hour on this TD Thursday. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you, broadcasting live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. It is 10 a.m. on a Thursday, which means it is your time to talk to TD. 615-737-1025. Any questions that you have for Turron Davenport, we will try and get to them over the next 30 minutes. This is Patrick from Franklin, TD. It is a sequel to a question that he asked before last season. He said, last year before the season started, I asked TD what gas station he thought the Titans were most like. I believe he said that they were a Circle K. What gas station do you think the Titans are most like right now?
Good question.
They're not quite a Wawa yet.
Nah, definitely not a Wawa. Maybe Mapco. I don't know.
I could see a Mapco or like a Twice Daily.
Yeah, Twice Daily. There you go.
Yeah,
Twice Daily.
I wouldn't put. I'm a big Quick Trip guy up in like the Midwest. I spent 2 summers up there in Minnesota. Quick Trip with a K, the KT, not the QT, is phenomenal. I'm also Wawa's great. Sheetz is great.
Yeah.
There's some good ones. I don't know if the Titans are in that tier yet, but I think Mapco Twice Daily.
Yeah, I think Mapco Twice Daily. They're just right there with Circle K. Like it's all the three. Yeah,
they've upgraded slightly, but they got to prove to us that the gas prices are going down and their food is going to be hot and fresh for us when we walk in.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Kenny the mailman has called in. Kenny, thanks for calling. What you got for us today?
Hello, good friends. TD, a minute ago you was making fun of Ron Darling.
No, not making fun. Ron Darling's my guy. I was just he
was on
up
MLB
on the
Network.
Screen. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure
Man.
you take help.
No, that's
one of help where you can get it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite pitchers, man. And the reason why I was so surprised to see him on there because the last couple Mets broadcasts that I've watched, because it's normally Keith Hernandez, and Gary Cohen, but it was Daniel Murphy. I forget who was on last night. I couldn't decipher who it was, but Ron Darling wasn't on, and I really enjoy when he and Hernandez are there together. But I hadn't seen either one.
Me talking to Kenny.
I was talking with lady handing me her letters. I'm back.
All right, you're good.
I gotta do my job.
Hey,
Kenny,
listen.
multitasking.
Yeah, TD, last week, a couple weeks ago, you've been the only person to ever mention Tom and Jerry on a sports radio show. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
It broke me up. So I'm going to ask you for your Tom and Jerry moment of the draft. What was the wildest? You're not going to believe that my favorite dog is coming for his treat. Hi, Beto. This is live. I'm not lying, am I, Mr. Jones?
You are not lying at all.
You gotta love it. You gotta love it.
This is live radio.
Kenny, where are you? Where are you?
Behind West End Junior High School.
Okay.
I have never sprayed a dog in my life. I carry treats, but the downside to that, it looks like a dog parade some days. They're just following me down the street. I love what I do. Well, anyway.
So the Tom and Jerry moment of the draft, to me it had to be Carnell Tate. Because
really,
because like I had Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, and Arvell Reese. I had all my entries pre-written.
Didn't have that one ready?
Didn't have Tate ready. So it reminded me, and I was telling the guys in the studio on the other side of the glass about this the other day. It reminded me of the mouse, Tom and Jerry's cousin, who said, ride 'em out, meet 'em out, cram on. I said, ride 'em out, meet 'em out, cram on. And then the string pop. That's what happened to me, man. The string popping. When they took Carnell Tate, that was the string popping. And then I had to go grab a whisker and rewire my guitar, like Jerry, like Tom. Jerry's cousin grabbed Tom's whisker and rewired the guitar. That was
this might be my favorite 5 minutes ever on radio. I didn't expect that answer, and I didn't expect my dog to come up wanting treats. God bless y'all.
Thank you for the
God
call,
bless.
Kenny. Man, if there was any doubt that Kenny was telling the truth about being a mailman, it's gone.
Yeah, it's
We
gone.
got him in his element right there.
He said, no spray. Give me the treats. Man, I had a spray.
TD Justin from Greenbrier asks, you may have already expressed this, but what was your favorite pick that the Titans made in the draft?
Oh, Anthony Hill.
I think that's
Easily.
the universal one.
Yeah, easily Anthony Hill. I like the Nick Singleton one.
By the way, Anthony Hill just followed the 1025 The Game Twitter.
Really?
There you go.
Welcome, Anthony Hill Jr.
Welcome. Go ahead and
call
give
in
him a
with your
shout out.
question for TD.
Yeah, come on. But no, I think that is my favorite pick. He's the guy we talked about as an option, you know, if they didn't go Sonny Styles. You look at his play, it gives you like flashes of Bobby Wagner, and we know what Bobby Wagner did in this defense. So yeah, I mean, just the enthusiasm he has that he plays with, he's gonna rock you. You're gonna think now. Look, I'm not saying people gonna be scared to come across the middle, but you're gonna think about it. Like you know what I mean? Like, hey, look, man. Like in film, you look to your quarterback. Hey, look, man. Like, not for anything, but Zero be rocking guys. Like, we got to make sure. And I said this on
hospital balls. Please.
Yeah, I said it on Talking with TV. I was like, you gotta make sure like it's top of the numbers of face masks on those crossing routes, man. Like, keep me healthy. You know, you have to have that conversation because of a guy like that. So I think that's good.
With Anthony Hill, you've seen his ability as a pass rusher, and the team has said that they're going to use him off the ball, even though he did have success coming off the edge at Texas. Coverage has been the one question that I've seen about him. How do you feel about him as a...
No, I think he's comfortable in zone. I think he's going to be okay there. He's not like the same as Sonny Styles in that like you won't see him run step for step with receivers.
Yeah.
Down the
not
seam.
running a 4.46.
Yeah, but I mean, like he's 4.5.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
so
not
he's
too
still
much.
got speed, but I don't think you know the man skills are as much as like Fred Warner or those types. But I think he can still play. He definitely works in that scheme.
I'm excited to see him, and I think having Anthony Hill put Cedric Gray in a role that maybe he is a little bit more comfortable with, of basically Cedric Gray is just going to go clean up behind that the great run stuffing defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, just go get your tackles, Cedric Gray, behind that group of four. You answered this on the YouTube chat, but just to get it over the air here, Top Tier asks, what's your outlook on Nick Singleton? Do you think he can be the guy after this season?
Yeah, I think he can, because when you look at it, you don't have, I mean, Spears and Pollard aren't under contract after this year. So, I mean, I would bring Spears back. But, you know, I think he can be the guy, because to me, he's, you know, there's a lot more that could be unlocked with his pass catching ability. That's something we talked about on the Zoom with him. I asked him about that, and Dave Ziegler had mentioned that on Tuesday. But then you look at the home run ability. The guy scores touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think he is, and I forgot, like I didn't realize he was 220 pounds.
Yeah, it's a big guy.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like he's a big, he's what you want out of a running back looking at him. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, the speed, he did hit 23 miles an hour, you know, at one point. So I think he's a complete player that can do everything that you want him to do. Now, is he Jeremiah Love? Of course not.
Yeah.
But, you know, can you have a Tajay Spears, Khalil Mullen, Nick Singleton trio? Yeah, absolutely.
So you think you'd bring Spears back?
I'd bring Spears back.
He just hasn't been able to stay healthy.
And the contract will be, you know, commensurate with that.
Well, I look at it, and I mentioned this the other day, that he was a Vrabel Carthon pick. Do you think that Saleh and Borgonzi maybe push him to the outside with, you know, Pollard's the more reliable guy as your lead back this year? You just drafted Singleton, and then Michael Carter played for Saleh a few years ago with the Jets. Like, does Spears maybe get pushed out because he's not one of this regime's guys?
It's possible, but I mean, if Spears plays well.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I guess
we
don't know, because last year he sprained his ankle on the first play of the preseason in Tampa. So I guess he's good, but I do think Spears is going to have to show out in camp because his spot on the roster is no longer guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. No, exactly. You definitely have to make sure that you show and prove because nothing is guaranteed for him, especially.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. We are taking your questions for Turron Davenport. Talk to TD. Anything you've got, we will get to it coming up next. Got a few good ones on the text line. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up. 1025 The Game. Celebrate Cinco de Mayo early with 102.5 The Game at Social Cantina in Germantown this Saturday. There will be music from 3 to 6, drink specials, swag giveaways, raffles, and patio party vibes all day long. Grab your crew and celebrate Cinco de Mayo the right way at Social Cantina. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. It is a TD Thursday, and we're giving you the chance to ask Turron Davenport anything you want. Text or call 615-737-1025, or you can drop it in the YouTube chat. We are monitoring that as well. To the text line here, 4987 asks, we've had awful luck with first-round wide receivers. TD, why do you think that is? Is it because of poor scouting, poor coaching, and how do you think Carnell Tate can break that trend?
I mean, I think it's a variety of things. Let's look at the first-round receivers. There's only 2, right? Carnell Tate makes the third. But,
yeah.
Okay, so go to Traylon Burks. We know it was mostly injuries. That's mostly what derailed him. Obviously, coming in, you had the issue about the asthma and him not being in shape.
And just ridiculously high expectations because you basically traded A.J. Brown 1-for-1 for him.
Yeah, so that was a tough situation there. Corey Davis, I think Corey Davis was a solid player, but
injuries too. The hamstrings were always an issue.
And then also, I mean, he was drafted 5th overall. He didn't live up to that. But I mean, if this was a guy that was drafted like bottom of the first round, second round, you say, hey, that was a solid career, So those are the 2. I mean, think about Kendall Wright. He had a good 2 years or so, right? He had a 1,000-yard season.
In the somebody tweeted this last week after the Carnell Tate pick. Top 5 Titans wide receivers in the Titans era, not including the Oilers. Kendall Wright is 5th in yardage. I think that's more indicative of how bad the Titans have been at finding good receivers than actually how good Kendall Wright was.
And Kenny Britt, he was a first rounder, right?
Yeah, he was. Kenny Britt out of Rutgers.
Had the broken leg, I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, everybody remembers the one moment on the long touchdown drive to beat the Cardinals where he caught the ball in the back of the end zone. But outside of that, I mean, he was meh. But no, I mean, the texter's right. With those 4, is that it really? 4 wide receivers in the first round over the past 15 years?
Let me see. Titans first round.
It sounds right. I can't think of anybody else off the top of my head. Like, they've had plenty of second-round picks. Justin Hunter, Dorial Green-Beckham, A.J. Brown. You go into the third, Taywan Taylor.
Yeah, Taywan Taylor.
But I can't think of any other first-rounders. So, I mean, with Carnell Tate, I've said this about quarterbacks and running backs with this franchise. You can't really look at the past as an indicator of the future when it's a different regime, right? Like, yes, if it was still Jeff Fisher or, if it was Rustin Webster and Mike Munchak who were there.
We forgot Kevin Dyson.
Oh, I wasn't going back that far.
Okay.
Like, I was thinking more like
injuries.
Over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
But like it's a different coaching staff, it's a different front office. So I don't think you can diagnose why the Titans have been bad at picking first-round wide receivers. They just have been, and you hope that this staff picked the right one and can develop Carnell Tate into an actual star out of a first-round wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. I think, the thing with Tate, though, he's so polished. He is he's one of the more polished, refined receivers I've seen in the last couple years. I think when you look at now, is there like a trait where you're just like, oh shoot, no? But I mean, he has good size. He could probably, 6'3", 195. You'd probably want him, a little more than 205.
Yeah, put a little muscle on there,
on the ball. But I think everything that I don't see any reason why he would flop.
Yeah, I don't see a ton of weaknesses in his game, but you're right. There isn't just one overwhelming strength where you're like, that's why he's a top 5 pick. He does everything really well, but maybe nothing to an elite level. He doesn't drop the ball very much, which is something the Titans have been missing over the last couple of years, is guys who are just reliable when you throw them the ball. Belvis from Houston asked, TD, do you think that Pat Coogan can have a Ben Jones effect on this O-line at center? And do you think Jackson Slater will be the right guard?
Ben Jones effect is a good way to put it.
I mean, Ben Jones, really, really good player for this franchise.
Really good. Solidified the team.
That might be a little bit high of a bar for a 6th round pick, but like I really did like the Pat Coogan pick.
Ben Jones, I think, was a 6th round pick at one point. Or a 5th round. I remember he was
later.
He came in with Brandon Brooks, and I remember he started at left guard. No, right guard. He started at guard and then moved to center once they got Brandon Brooks coming, because he came from Georgia. Brandon Brooks came from Miami, Ohio.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ben Jones is a little lofty. That's a little lofty of a comparison. I say let this guy beat out Schlotman first, and then we could look at those kind of things. But I mean, he very clearly is a leader. And you go back, you saw the speech pregame he gave at Notre Dame. But he's a guy that also the communication is there.
Yeah.
So he's someone that will help Cam, and call the protections and those things. Very well tenured player. So culture changer too. You saw what he did, going as part of that group at Indiana to turn things around. So I'm not going to go as far as say Ben Jones, but I'll say he's going to be an impact player at some point.
I think you really like the intelligence of Pat Coogan, the toughness, the leadership ability, but you also have to have the physical traits too, and we'll see how that all pans out when he gets out there on the field. But I do like Pat Coogan. Ben Jones, I put Ben Jones on such a pedestal because of the way the 2022 season ended. And there's a lot of things that everybody looks at for the reasons for that 7-game losing streak. And, John Robinson got fired. There's been other things that have been floating around about a Spotify playlist this week. But I think Ben Jones getting hurt is the largest reason that the Titans offense floundered down the stretch. Tannehill got hurt too, obviously, but you saw the offensive line that was really strong during that 6 or 7 game winning streak early on that year just kind of fell apart when Ben Jones got hurt.
Yeah. And Ben Jones was a 4th round pick. I was mistaken, but yeah, it did just kind of like crumble.
Yeah, right.
The best way.
It was like he was the linchpin holding it all together, and when you pulled him out of there, everything just collapsed.
All over.
Chris in Nashville asked, TD, what is the most memorable sporting event that you've ever attended and why?
Very good question. It's hard to beat that Super Bowl, the 2017.
Yeah, the Eagle, the Nick Foles one.
Yeah, but if you go non-work, I remember, so my receiver coach in college, one of them, he was my second one, Frankie Sumter. Rest in peace, Coach Sump. He played for the Redskins. And he took us to Cowboys Eagles. And I remember it was like about 5 of us. And I remember going in, and he took us down to the sideline. And I'll never forget. There's 2 things I'll never forget. Deion Sanders back there catching the punt. And the way before the punt, he's just like dancing and just looking around. And I'm like, how the heck can somebody be so relaxed before something so big? But that's how he was. But the other thing I remember is Brian Dawkins hit somebody. I don't remember who it was, but it was right in front of us. And he got up and screamed. And like that scream combined with the crowd, it was an energy that I never felt. That's the most memorable sporting event that I've seen, because just being there right on top of the action, feeling all that, that had to have been it.
It is funny, the moments that like stick with you. For me, honestly, one of the most memorable, I'd have to think back to all of the ones that I've seen. One of the most memorable sporting events I've ever been to was the Bills-Titans Monday Night Football game in 2021. That was just, let alone that the Titans won that game, just the moments in that game. Derrick Henry had the long run that got the Titans back into it early. Julio Jones had the toe tap catch off the defender's helmet on the sideline.
That's right.
Josh Allen getting stuffed to end the game by Jeffrey Simmons. Like, that was such a fun game. That one's up there for me. And then from when I was a kid, Virginia Tech played Nebraska at Lane Stadium, and Tyrod Taylor dodged Ndamukong Suh and threw a touchdown with like 15 seconds left to win the game. That one up there for me as well. There's some more questions here, so we will extend talk to TD. I've got some good ones here. We will do one more segment of this. If you have any last-minute questions for Turron Davenport, get them in now, 615-737-1025. Today, Vanderbilt baseball takes on Alabama down in Tuscaloosa. First pitch is at 6 p.m., and you can catch all of the action right here on 1025 The Game, with coverage presented by Gary Force Acura. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, and Parker Kelly with you on this TD Thursday. We have extended talk to TD because we've got some good interaction on our phone and text lines. Let's go to the phones. Adam in Portland is called in. Adam, thanks for calling. What you got for us this morning?
bringing you back to Boys to Men. What is
Let's
that?
go slow.
That's your walk-up song, Adam.
We don't have no.
Yeah, a lot of high school memories, man.
Hey.
So I do have one for you.
Hey, you
I got
slow
one for
slow
you.
dancing right now, Adam? You slow dancing?
Well, I'm just jamming, man. Yeah, like I got rejected a lot to that song too, though. So it's painful ain't good.
Yeah.
So I've got one for you. So my favorite player of all time is Sean Taylor, and I think he's the hardest hitting safety because he was basically a linebacker back there, right? And I wonder if that kind of person is now extinct, like that position. A hard-hitting safety, will they ever be appreciated again? Because you basically, you can get flagged for form tackling somebody these days. So I don't know that Sean Taylor would even fit in the NFL anymore. So I'm wondering if a player like that still can.
That's a great point. I think that body rocking safety is just like, here goes a name for you. Deshaun Golson.
Yeah.
That joker used to kill people, but he used to get so many fines, and it's just messed up how they've taken that intimidation part of the game away. And I get it, the issues with concussions and stuff like that, but this is a violent game. As a safety, or period, as a defender, you're taught, hey, I need to separate the pass catcher from the football. And that's what you try to do, but you can't do it. You're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Those Sean Taylors, the Ronnie Lotts, the Deshaun Golsons, the Chuck Cecils, the Steve Atwaters, those guys are not allowed to exist anymore, and it's a shame.
Cam Chancellor.
Cam
Bam. He put the boom in the Legion of Boom.
Yeah, I kind of omitted him on purpose, because I used to love those 49ers teams that he always intimidated. When he hit Vernon Davis.
Cam Chancellor is one of my all-time favorite players, mostly because he's a Hokie. But I have a jersey signed by him and Tyrod Taylor and Tim Settle. I think I've told you that story.
Oh, yeah. Tim
Settle scribbling out his name on there and then writing it again because he got it wrong the first time. Let's get back to the text line here. Got a couple of fun ones on the text line. Richie from White House asked, TD, if you had an opportunity to choose one player or coach for the Titans to cruise around in the Corvette and jam to some music with, who would you choose?
That's a good question. One player. It would have to be Tajay, man.
Tajay, really?
Yeah, it would have to be Tajay. He might be my favorite guy in that locker room because Tajay always has good energy. Always. Always. And it would have been Arden Key, but Arden's gone. But
yeah, Arden Key seems like a fun guy to just like cruise around.
And
with.
we have similar music tastes. And he loves the vet. He wanted to trade, he wanted to let me hold the Rolls Royce and he take the vet. And I said, I am not going to have a $200,000 or $300,000 vehicle in my possession. That just ain't gonna happen.
Yeah,
But I would say that's a good question. I would probably say Tajay just because. I would say Tajay.
I like that. I'm trying to think of anybody else who would stand out.
Jeff, he's not fitting in the vet. You know what I mean?
That's true. That has to be part of it too. Of like who's gonna have the leg room.
Tajay, Femi too, because that is close, but I'll go Tajay.
Philip asked, TD, the Titans still have a lot of money they can spend. Are there any free agents you would eye to bring in and fill out the roster? I know Zeitler's a guy we talk about a lot, but anybody else out there that you think could make sense?
I mean, why not Njoku?
Do you think that would fit for the Titans given the room you already have?
You could run some crazy 12 personnel with he and Gunnar Helm.
Yeah, no, that's true.
I think he's better than everybody on the roster.
Oh, I agree. But I guess that would mean Gunnar Helm would be relegated to being your tight end too, which maybe they view that as his role if they go out and sign David Njoku.
Yeah. I mean, that one came to mind, but think of any others. I can't really think of any others.
Something we've talked about this week is Titans need a swing tackle. Like, would you think that a veteran addition at tackle behind Dan Moore and J.C. Latham would make some sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Because right now it's Brandon Crenshaw Dixon and Austin Deculus. Those are your two guys behind those two. And then Emil Wagner, who we got a text about him too, the undrafted free agent out of Notre Dame coming in.
Yeah. He's a right tackle, wasn't he?
I think so, but he only gave up 1 sack this year for the Irish.
Yeah, so I mean, he could end up being. I know the previous staff, they like Crenshaw Dixon as a developmental guy, but look, you can never have too many tackle options. So yeah, if there's a swing tackle, that would be really good. Not sure what will be left because typically good offensive linemen don't become free agents, period, and let alone stay on the market
right
this late. So I don't know that there's an addition you could make that would be too.
There are two that I've brought up that I think they're holding out for starting opportunities, but there could just become a point where they're like, hey, I got to get paid this season. Like, I got to play somewhere. Taylor Decker is still out there, and Jack Conklin, both still out on the market.
I didn't realize Conklin was out there.
Yeah.
Jonah Williams.
Cam Robinson's out there, which I wouldn't feel good about Cam Robinson being my full-time starter, but I mean, it's a guy with experience that I'd feel better about than the guys you have currently.
Yeah. Lucas Niang, I remember him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one position. I mean, the offensive line in general is the one spot that gives me some serious concern for this season because you're one Latham or Moore injury away from disaster.
That's the thing. I mean, look, across the league, there really isn't depth at O-line. You know what I mean? If you have 2 good tackles and a swing tackle that's solid, like you're winning.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, right. I mean, that's the issue is swing tackle is probably not a great position for anybody across the league, right? Like there's not enough good tackles for every team to have 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be that's why I was a little surprised again. Like we said, the Titans didn't take cornerback in the draft. I was a little surprised we didn't see them go tackle later in the draft either, too, just to add a little bit more talent, a little bit more depth to that room.
Yeah, I mean, look, Carmona, he played tackle. He's more of a guard, but he's played tackle before. But I think he's going to settle in as one of the guard depth options, competing for that right guard spot. But you're right. When you look at the tackle position, as you mentioned, Deculus and Crenshaw Dixon, those are pretty much your options as far as what they have. See. That's the thing. The previous staff, we did see them, use tackle eligible a lot. We'll see what this group, like how they do in that situation. But if you remember, last year they used it all the time.
Yeah. And Oli Udoh, is he with the Saints now? Cardinals?
I don't know where he is, but he was, yeah.
Because not that Oli Udoh, he's with the Cardinals now. So not that he was the greatest swing tackle in the world, but I definitely would have felt better with him being back than some of the options that they have. So offensive line, and Dave Ziegler said this earlier this week, that's one of the spots that they believe they're going to add more competition to throughout the offseason. So we'll just have to see what moves they make. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Big thanks to everybody who interacted with Talk to TD. Great questions today. And we'll continue to take them if you have any more for TD before the end of the show. But did want to get TD's thoughts on Chad Brinker as he stepped down on Tuesday night and ends the 3-year era of the Rand Carthon, Brian Callahan, Brinker regime, and the Titans move on with this duo of Bergonzi and Saleh. We'll get into it coming up next. 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly. Next man up. 125 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. Again, appreciate everybody who interacted during Talk to TD. If you have any more questions, we will try and get to them throughout the show. But I did want to get TD's thoughts on Chad Brinker. He has stepped down as the Titans president of football operations, a role that he got 2 years ago, was hired by Rand Carthon as the assistant GM, then spent 2 years, 2.5 years as the president of football operations, and now has stepped down to get back into personnel. This isn't exactly shocking. When Amy Adams-Strunk released the statement saying that it's no longer going to be Mike Borgonzi reporting to Chad Brinker and Mike Borgonzi is going to be the man in charge of all of the roster decisions, it felt like the writing was on the wall a little bit for Chad Brinker.
Yeah, it did seem like things were coming to a head. And apparently, like from what I understand, like it was pretty bad for him as far as like he was walking over, like you could tell he was bothered.
Yeah,
you know, and I'm not saying what I saw day to day. I'm saying what I was told that people have seen day to day. A lot of just like down in the dumps, you know, and it was almost like he was outside looking in, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because I know, and I actually said it on Twitter. I when he has said that you know, Borgonzi was going to have control of the roster and be in charge of building the roster. It's like that's good leadership on Chad Brinker's part, because I felt like Chad, what he was doing was empowering and giving the ownership to Borgonzi, empowering him to do what he was hired to do. A general manager is supposed to build your roster. You know what I mean? Like, you don't hire a mechanic to show you how to, you know, cook a meal. You hire a mechanic to fix your car, and he fixes your car, and you let him do what he does. And I felt that's what Chad Brinker was doing. I just wonder if he understood how much of a step back that was going to be, because I know he still wanted to, because at the heart, he loves scouting.
Yeah.
You know, obviously you have the analytical part and you have the operations part that he brings to the table, extensive degrees and schooling and all of that. He loves scouting, right? And so having that, I don't want to say taken away from him, but having that minimized.
Yeah, put on the back burner for him while he has to deal with all the other responsibilities.
I don't think he realized how much of a change and step back that was going to be, how much that was going to bother him as it did. And I mean, look, like let's face the facts. Borgonzi has come in and you know, he's made a good mark. Obviously, record-wise, it wasn't good last year, but you look at the authority that he brings, right? You know, hey, look, this and this aren't eye to eye. We got to trade this guy away.
Yeah.
I know he was just drafted, and I know coming in he was a starter, but we got to trade this guy away.
Yeah.
Jarvis Brownlee Jr. Oh, you know what? Okay, we got a new scheme in here. I know he was, you know, a high draft pick, but it's not matching. We got a chance to get somebody that I know my coach likes. We got to trade T'Vondre Sweat away. So I think it's really just one of those things where it came down to not being able to do what he wants to do anymore in Chad Brinker, and then also just being at a point where, unfortunately, and I don't think Borgonzi came in and did, you know, I'm not saying Borgonzi to me isn't a snake. Borgonzi to me isn't someone that would try to undermine anybody.
Yeah.
Do I know him personally to really, really say that? No, but I know him enough to not play poker with him. I'll tell you that much. I told him that too. I after his pressure, I said, man, I would never play poker with you, man. You know, but I think he's someone that's just focused on getting the job done. And in the end, Chad's step back, I think, ended up being a huge detriment to him, and now he's in this situation. But he's going to resurface.
Yeah,
he has a lot of. He's going to resurface.
He's going to end up somewhere, and
I think he's going to end up a little bit further down south.
Really?
Yeah.
I was going to say maybe back to Green Bay with John Eric Sullivan leaving. Maybe he goes back up there. I don't know, but
Where John Eric Sullivan go?
Oh yeah, that's true. Maybe that's the connection that we need to be looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you that I think Mike Borgonzi, and you said it, like the record last year wasn't great, but you're not going to turn a bad team into a good team in one offseason.
Right.
But I think the choices that he's made has shown promise. They obviously have to pan out. But I think the one thing, and words aren't everything, but when you listen to Mike Borgonzi, you get the feeling that this is a guy who has a plan and he knows how to execute it and he has a long-term vision. With Chad Brinker, again, press conferences don't make good general managers, but it always just felt like Chad Brinker didn't have a great way to eloquently put forth his vision for this team. When he was asked about it, he was never able to tell you, this is what we want, this is how we're going to execute it, and this is why it's going to work. Mm-hmm. With Mike Borgonzi, every time I hear him speak, I at least feel like, all right, that's a guy who knows what he's doing, he's in control, and I can trust that he at least is he's going to make logical decisions. Mm-hmm. With Chad Brinker, I just always felt like there was a little bit of uncertainty every time he spoke, and it didn't exactly bring a whole lot of confidence in him.
Yeah. No, I could see that. I definitely could see that. So, hey, I mean, it's very. If you just go back to December of 22, or even to November of 20, like, and look at this, man. Like John Robinson, they're in first place. Obviously, AJ and the Eagles gave him a stern butt whooping. Okay, John Robinson's fired. Rand Carthon is hired. Mike Vrabel is fired.
Brian
Callahan is hired. Rand is fired. Borgonzi's hired.
Callahan's fired.
Brinker Salah's hired.
Yeah, right. Salah's hired.
And then in the mix of that, you got Brinker being hired by Rand and then Brinker stepping down. Like, that's a lot.
Oh, it's in the last 3.5 years, you've had 4 personnel guys, if you want to put Brinker in there, and now 3 head coaches. I mean, it's crazy. And I think you can finally kind of turn the page, hopefully. And you don't know. If this is a disaster this year and Cam Ward bottoms out and none of the draft picks look good, then maybe we're in for another year of turmoil.
Yeah.
But I think you can look at this. The Robinson and Vrabel era was one chapter. And I know Vrabel overlapped with Rand, but it felt like the Rand, Brinker, Callahan chapter is now, you've turned the page from that. And you're hoping that this duo of Borgonzi and Saleh are the right two at the wheel to lead this team forward. But, obviously they have to prove that first with what they're able to do, building the roster and executing on Sundays.
Somebody has to stabilize this ship. Because right now, like,
yeah,
it could go any direction.
They're just, you've got to get to Black Monday this year and not have any doubt that Borgonzi and Saleh are sticking around for another season, right?
Yeah.
Like you've got to get this team to a point where you are not changing leadership year in and year out. This duo, Amy has committed to them. Chad Brinker has now stepped away. It is Borgo and Saleh. Can they get this thing turned around?
Yeah. Well, and now the other thing I wonder, okay, does Bryce Wasserman, like, where does he come in to play here? And to me, I would keep him, where he is, with an understanding of there's an opportunity for growth. But to me, I think having it as traditional as possible, ownership, general manager, you got Berg Nihill, working the business side of things. And ownership, general manager, head coach, coordinators, position coaches, period.
Do you think they fill that position? Or is it because they did tell us when Brinker and Carthon and then Brinker and Borgonzi, that job's too big for one person.
Yeah.
Did they mean it? I think we're going to find out in the next couple of months if they hire him. If not, it's just a way for them to justify having 2 guys doing what is usually one job.
Yeah, and I mean, look, like Bryce, he holds a high, operations role. I think it was.
I think he's like. Is he director of football ops or something like?
Like not
president, but director. Yeah.
Which is, I mean, look, for a guy his age, like that's awesome.
Yeah. And, I'm
chief of staff football
yeah, there you
operations.
go. So chief of staff, I would think that maybe he starts to handle some of those roles, but maybe he doesn't actually get the title change to president of football operations, because there are some things that fall under the GM's purview that aren't roster based. And I do think you want to have Mike Borgonzi focused on his most important role, which is picking the right players. So I do think some of those responsibilities will have to fall on somebody else. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'll take your thoughts on that and much more. We see you waiting. We will get to you coming up next. Going to keep talking Titans. It is a TD Thursday, one more hour here on 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, the game final hour on this TD Thursday. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, and Parker Kelly broadcasting from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Lots of great Titans talk through the first 2 hours. We're going to dive into rookie minicamp a little bit here and look around the league. But first, let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Alex is called in. Alex, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Hey, man. So, basically, I was calling, I guess I got like two questions in one. It's regarding Carnell Tate and the receiver group, obviously, because, I mean, that's everybody been worried about and, shall we say, skeptical to see about what Carnell Tate can do. So, first question, I guess you say, is like at the end of the year, at the end of the season in totality, who do y'all think will be overall like the Cam Ward's go-to guy, like the overall wide receiver one? And the second question basically is like 4 years from now, because this is the real question that I wanted to know. 4 years from now, do y'all think Carnell Tate will be considered basically because it is a big, massive reach at number 4. Like, do y'all think he will be like considered a bust? Or like, do you think he'll be considered Corey Davis 2.0, like a good football player, but at number 4, it's like, it is what it is. You know, you got the expectation now to basically perform like the top guys in the NFL. I mean, at that pick, like Justin Jefferson and Jamar and, all those guys. And that's all I had, man.
Yeah, thanks for the call.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't see him being a bust. I think he's too polished and too complete to be a bust. But then it's like, what do you define as a bust? Because you got some of these people, if he doesn't get 1,100 yards this year, it's a bad pick. No, I think it really depends on what you define, but I think he's going to end up being one of Cam Ward's guys. To me, Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be Cam's guy, but it's all situational, right? Because we know that Tate is being put at X to be a downfield threat. So they need a big play, boom, you're going to go. You need to get the chains moved, boom, you go to Wan'Dale Robinson. And I still am not going to overlook Ridley's impact with this. And I know, last year was last year and you had the drops and, the injuries, but I still think Calvin Ridley is a very capable player. So I think he's going to have an impact too. But to answer his question, who Ward's guy is going to be, to me, it's going to be Wan'Dale Robinson.
I think it could be either of them. We've looked back through the 2024 Giants season 2 years ago, and with Brian Daboll as the offensive coordinator, rookie Malik Neighbors had 107 catches for 1,200 yards. That's high expectations. Wouldn't expect that from Carnell Tate. But Wan'Dale Robinson also had 90 catches in that offense. So it seems like there are going to be targets to go around for a lot of different guys. You've got some depth in that receiver room now. But I would agree with you. If I had to guess, like, who's going to have the most catches, most yards, you know what I'll say? I'll say most catches, Wan'Dale Robinson, most yards, Carnell Tate. Like, I think that's a safe way to put it.
I can reason with that. Yeah, that's a very safe way to put it.
Because Wan'Dale Robinson is going to be your, hey, it's 3rd and 5, go get me 6 yards. But Carnell Tate is going to be more of a downfield threat for this team.
Yeah, and that's exactly the way I look at it as well.
We're going to get our first look at Carnell Tate along with the rest of the rookie class over the weekend. Rookie minicamp starts tomorrow. TD, there's not a whole lot that you can glean from rookie minicamp, right? There's no veterans out there. It's kind of just these guys getting their feet wet. But what do you specifically look for when you see these guys out on the field for the first time in these rookie minicamps?
It depends on the position. Like for Anthony Hill Jr., I'm going to look at just, is he able to move around confidently and with speed?
Yeah.
Because I remember Cedric Gray loving him coming out of North Carolina, and he was a guy that it took a little bit to see the speed and see how he was going, because he was, green dot, rookie, trying to, like, it was a lot for him. And then he had the injury and training camp, et cetera, et cetera. But nevertheless, that's what I'm looking at for Hill. Tate, I just wanted, see him run the routes. I want to see how sudden he is. I want to see him continue to catch the ball with his hands. Falk, I just want to see what he looks like.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, because of so many mentions of the pad level, going to be looking at that. So I think really for the most part, just to generalize it and not go player by player, you want to see how well they move. You want to see, how comfortable they are. You want to see how they're able to take the coaching and just, get a feel for them on the field. Because one thing I do like about, like, how could I say this without like sounding like I'm bragging? Because I'm not really bragging. I and this is why I always love like going to high school games, right, and watching them pregame, because it's like you could point at player. Like I feel like I could point at player. Like, oh, he's a good player. He's a good player. I don't know about this guy. We'll see. Yeah, that's not it right there. You know what I mean? Like you can
tell a lot even when there's not a whole lot going on.
Exactly. And so being able to do that and test it and see, okay, is this undrafted free agent a guy that can make the roster? Do you think he can, from how he, those types of things? Your first exposure to them, seeing them up close and personal and moving around, that's really what I'm looking at.
Yeah, with the draft picks, especially for guys like Keldrick Falk and the offensive linemen, you're not going to tell a lot. Like they're not going pads in the rookie mini camp, right? Like or
no.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that seems early to put pads on.
You're not going to see pads until second week of camp.
Right. So I mean, you're not getting full contact Keldrick Falk versus Fernando Carmona on the offensive line. Like you're not going to be able to tell a whole bunch from that. But I do think Carnell Tate, you can probably get a feel for how comfortable he is, even though the quarterback's throwing, like it's Caden Salter and I'm blanking on the other undrafted quarterback that was reported they signed. So you're not going to be able to get a whole lot, but I agree with you on the undrafted free agent part. Like I do think with the undrafted guys, you may not be able to tell that guy's going to make the team, but you may be able to say that guy's probably not going to make the team based on just what you see in rookie minicamp.
Yeah, like you could tell the difference between who belongs and who doesn't.
Interesting undrafted free agent guy that we're going to see out there tomorrow, Thomas Castellanos, who was the quarterback at Boston College and Florida State. He's going to come to the Titans as a wide receiver.
Yeah.
That feels like the ultimate lottery ticket there. Dude is a ridiculous athlete. And, obviously I don't know if he's practiced much at wide receiver, but he's going to get an opportunity here in Nashville.
Yeah, he's going to get an opportunity. What was his name? Braxton Miller. I think that is going to have him reincarnated. I say that jokingly, but yeah, I mean, we'll see.
I mean, I get it when Thomas Castellanos at his size and doesn't have like the ideal arm strength, but he is a really good athlete. You're probably not going to make a roster as a quarterback. There's only so many spots to go around. Give it a shot at wide receiver. Why not?
Yeah,
I don't hate it.
Hey, listen, whatever you could do to improve your chances, go ahead and do it.
Rookie mini camp starts tomorrow for the Titans. Again, we'll get our first look at some of the draft picks as well as these undrafted free agents, and the Titans bringing in a decent class. We'll get into a couple of those guys coming up next as well. We'll also get to your thoughts on our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. Rolling along on this TD Thursday. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. A few more segments on this TD Thursday. Diving into the Titans rookie class as rookie minicamp starts tomorrow. We've talked ad nauseum about all the draft picks, 8 draft picks coming in, and they'll be the focal point during rookie minicamp. Carnell Tate, Keldrick Falk, Anthony Hill, etc. But Tyron Montgomery is getting a lot of buzz. And it was funny, as we're heading into this segment, Belvis on the YouTube chat put in Tyron Montgomery with the eyeball emoji.
Yeah.
It's a fun story. We did mention it early on in the show. This guy, John Carroll, he didn't pick up football until college. He started as a basketball player at LSU and then went to Nichols, then John Carroll. He set records there. I've got his stats pulled up. 2,600 yards, 32 touchdowns in 2 years at John Carroll and had 120 catches last year.
Yeah.
So this is a guy who's been productive, obviously at a very low level of college football, but a really fun story to see if he's got any chance to make this Titans.
Yeah, exactly. It is a fun story. And just to take it a step further, he's a guy that, as you mentioned, he didn't play high school football. His brother actually played quarterback, and that's how he ended up, at Carroll. Like playing football because his brother, they were just throwing the football around, and he's like, man, this dude is like jumping up and catching it with one hand and doing all this crazy stuff. What's up, man? You don't want to play football? And the thing that's just really next level and just kind of like one of those it was written type parts of this story is his mom always said, hey, you should play football. You should play football.
And he just wanted to play basketball?
He just wanted to play basketball. He finally gave in, between his mom and his brother. He played, and his first year, he set records for a single season at Carroll. His mom got to go see. But then the second year, cancer emerged, and he lost his mom.
Right.
But then to see him be able to get this chance in the league, and carry out what the vision his mom saw, it's just awesome to see and hear. And I can't wait to like talk to him about that tomorrow and not watch it through a TV, but to feel him talk about that. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to the most. But then let's not get it twisted. Like this isn't some type of Disney,
it could be a movie,
story,
but like
he's a good player.
Yeah.
He went down there at the Senior Bowl and he was grinding those dudes out, man. Like he was beating corners. And in fact, it made everybody like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's hold on. We got to get this guy back, get him in the mix and evaluate him. Unfortunately, he didn't get a combine invite, but I mean, he was on the radar. He's an undrafted free agent signing.
There was a clip circulating after the Titans signed him of him going up against Tennessee Volunteer Colton Hood at the Senior Bowl and just ran a stop route, and Colton Hood ended up about 10 yards downfield and Montgomery caught the ball. I like the move by the Titans to pick this guy up. As we talked about, he didn't start playing football until 3 years ago. So it's like there is a lot of growth potential there. I do just wonder with this Titans receiving room, is there going to be much of a spot for him to even compete for? If I'm looking around this Titans depth chart, like the defensive line feels pretty set about who's going to be on the roster. There's a couple spots that might be up for grabs, but wide receiver, I think there's a gap between 6 and 7.
Yeah.
Right. It's Tate, Ridley, Robinson, DK, Iamaner, and I think Oliver because of what he brings on special teams. Montgomery is going to have to show a lot if he's going to want to get himself into the conversation during offseason training camp and into the preseason. It's a cool story, but he definitely is going to have an uphill battle, as most UDFAs do, to make
huge uphill battle. Maybe he could be that guy that kind of hangs around on the practice squad, and the fans latch on to, and he makes a career out of that.
Camp hero.
Get some call-ups and shines in the game here and there. That's always a possibility.
And I didn't realize, I'm reading the article, Dave Ziegler, JCU grad, John Carroll grad. So that might have been the connection that that made things happen here. I'm sure you can name at least one other John Carroll grad who made it in the NFL. There are only 3 others, but one of them is a pretty big name.
John Carroll grad.
1997 grad. Linebacker.
I'm blanking.
London Fletcher.
London Fletcher. Okay.
That's
Nice.
the only other one I recognize. Larry Wanke. He was Mr. Irrelevant in 1991, and Tom Arth in 03 have both made the NFL. But London Fletcher is obviously the name that stands out there. Again, Titans rookie minicamp getting set to go tomorrow. And we'll get our first look at Carnell Tate. And when is the first time the rookies get together with the veterans? It's what, a couple weeks from now as the offseason program rolls along?
Yeah, you got the OTAs.
Like mid-May?
I think it's the 18th. I want to say.
Yeah, which that's more what I'm excited to see, because like Carnell Tate is going to be one of the most talked about players all the way through the offseason leading up to week 1. But Carnell Tate catching passes from Caden Salter isn't going to exactly move the needle as much as the first time you see Carnell Tate and Cam Ward connect. So I think that's what fans probably have their eyes on, is the first time we get to see, all right, Cam Ward's throwing to Carnell Tate, Keldrick Falks lining up next to Jeffrey Simmons. Like that's more exciting than what we're going to see this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. When you start to see them all together on the field, that's when the true mixing into the program is done.
With the Titans offseason mostly coming to a close, and we did hint at this early on in the show, but what do you think the expectation should be for this team this year? I know we've said that they have to be better, right? You cannot be a 3-win team again next year, but what for you would be a successful season for this Titans team? Doesn't even have to be a win total, but just there might just be a feeling that you get at the end of the season that makes this a successful first year of Robert Saleh.
I think they need to double the wins, 6 to 7 wins, but they just have to show promise and be exciting on offense and shut down on defense, right? I think that's the big thing, where you need to see steps in the right direction. That's like the most simple way I could put it.
Yeah, I just the word I keep coming back to when I think about this upcoming season, competitive football.
Yeah.
Right? Like, don't have games where mid-second quarter and you're ready to change the channel because it's over, or just games that the biggest thing for me is games in October that matter. Like, can we stop having the season be over on September 30th when you're 0-4? Like,
talking draft prospects,
right?
Like October 2nd.
This team needs to start caring more about the fall than the spring. In the last couple of years, it's been more about the spring. All right, how do you add to the roster? What are you going to draft? This year, the games have to matter. And with Robert Saleh at the helm, I do feel more confident in the ability to hit the ground running this year. Something I brought up earlier this week, and I wanted to get your thoughts too. I look back at Robert Saleh's defensive numbers. His first year with San Francisco, they finished 24th. But then they were 13th, 2nd, 5th his next 3 years that got him the Jets job. With the Jets, his first year, the defense was 32nd. But then it was 3rd, 4th his last 3 years. Do you think with his specific scheme, there may be a little bit of a learning curve here for this team? And maybe having the guys who are familiar with it that he's brought over from previous stops, could that help accelerate that process?
Yeah, it could help, the Franklin Myers, the Jacob Martins,
Jermaine
Johnson. But there is going to be, somewhat of a learning curve. Your linebackers have to, it's a different scheme, a different thing that they're asked to do. So Cedric Gray, Anthony Hill, fortunately for them, Anthony Hill Jr. is a guy they don't have to unlearn the stuff he learned in the pros. They could just, redirect them. But, your Cedric Gray, you're going to have to unlearn that. Your Cody Barton, actually, he's played in this scheme before. So you do have that. But, yeah, it's going to be different, right? And then even offensively, offense is offense for the most part. Like, so many teams run similar stuff. Dable obviously isn't the same as everyone. So you are going to have somewhat of a learning curve. But I think, that's to be expected with a new scheme. But to me, when you're completely changing the concepts, 3-4 to 4-3, out front to even front, it's going to be a curve.
It's gonna take a little bit of time. And you talked about the linebacker room there with the addition of Anthony Hill. Your thoughts on Cody Barton and James Williams and where they kind of fit in for this year, this team in year one of Saleh?
Yeah, I think it's depth. And James Williams is going to continue to be a special team standout.
Yeah.
And that's what you want from him. He could play. He could play that weak side backer for you. I don't think he's going to start. Beat out said Greg, but in times where they do go, base 4-3, you might see him in the game, but I think it's going to be more like rotation and special teams.
615-737-1025 is the phone number if you have any questions for TD. Lots of good stuff today on the Titans. The offseason is wrapping up around the NFL, and I wanted to get TD's thoughts on some other teams that he thinks have made the biggest strides this offseason through free agency and the draft. We'll get into that next. We got 30 more minutes on this TD Thursday. Again, if you have anything for Turron, get it in 615-737-1025. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game.
Every step of the way, from free agency to the 4th overall pick in the draft, and to every move in between, we are your source for football news. Off-season coverage is presented by Tennessee Brew Works, locally owned, community driven.
Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. 30 more minutes in this show. Been a fun one. Reacting to the Titans draft class, what they've done as a whole this offseason, but 31 other teams in the NFL. TD, is there any team to you that stands out that has gotten a whole lot better this offseason heading into the 2026 season?
I like what Cleveland did to their receiver group. Man.
Yeah. KC and Denzel Boston.
Man, dude, instant influx of talent. That's for sure. I think the Bucks, they did a good job. But the one that stands out the most is Cleveland.
Yeah, I like what Cleveland has done, and I'm sure you saw Todd Monken says that Shedeur Sanders has fallen a little bit behind Deshaun Watson. It's so early in the offseason program that I don't know how much that actually means, but I do think that's more of a competition than maybe people initially thought of Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders fighting for that starting quarterback job.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's definitely a competition. I don't think it shouldn't be, right? And now you add Taylor Green to the mix. I don't think he's going to compete for a starting spot, but Andrew Berry said they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks, so that is something to take note of as well. We'll see what happens with Shedeur and Watson. I don't know. I hope that Shedeur is able to continue being the starter. There's so much against that kid, but I like the fact that he's done what he's done so far, and I think he's going to get better.
I don't know if I believe in Shedeur Sanders as a franchise quarterback, but I also what benefit do you get for starting Deshaun Watson? I don't think Deshaun Watson is ever going to be your franchise quarterback again. Yeah. Shedeur Sanders at least is younger. I think he's got more of a runway to improve. I would go with Shedeur just because, Browns aren't going to be all that good this year anyway. They'll probably be better, but I would rather see what I've got in the young guy than the player that you invested so much in that's been a failure that only has 1 year left on his contract.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, you got to let that just go ahead and fade. It's over.
A team that I really think improved a lot this offseason, the Las Vegas Raiders. And they feel like they've got their quarterback now with Fernando Mendoza. We'll have to see, do they want him to start right away? Do they let Kirk Cousins start? But they add Tyler Linderbaum. You've already got Ashton Genty and Brock Bowers, and you still got Michael Mayer. The wide receiver room is not great. It's I'm looking at some of these names, and I'm like, I don't know who Fernando's going to throw the ball to if it's not Brock Bowers. But on the defensive side, they added a couple of draft picks. Jermod McCoy at 101. I know there's a lot of risk with Jermod McCoy, and we heard over draft weekend about the bone plug that could end up needing surgery again. But that is a really big, high-risk, high-reward pick where you could have gotten the best cornerback in the draft with your 4th-round pick if he ends up staying healthy.
Yeah, and that's the big thing if he ends up staying healthy. And, they're saying this bone plug, like this is something that's really, really intense. I don't know that the Titans still had him on their board, but obviously there's a risk that comes with drafting a guy like that. And I if this team wasn't so miserable the last 2 years, I could validate taking a shot. But at this point, they can't afford to do anything like that.
Yeah.
They can't.
Yeah. When you have 3.5 draft classes that have just been total and complete busts, and you have no foundation for your team, I really like what they did. And I thought Corey put it well yesterday with their top 3 picks in the top 60, they went with young, talented guys, former 5-star-ish recruits. I think Falk was a high 4-star who produced and then came out early. I like that. Those are high ceiling picks. But with their day 3 picks, they went experience, high floor, who they feel like can, stick around for a little bit and aren't going to be complete and total busts.
Yeah.
So I do like that. That's what the Titans did. And maybe that's why Jermod McCoy wasn't a great fit.
Yeah, they weren't safe. I think that's what you have to do.
They didn't really have a pick where it would have made sense to take McCoy anyway, right? Like you had that break between 60 and 142. He went right in the middle at 101, which used to be the Titans pick, actually. It was until they made the Keldrick Falk trade.
Yeah.
Jared from Spring Hill says Jets had a solid draft. I felt like too. I agree. I think that Jets draft getting Bailey, Sadiq, Cooper, and D'Angelo Pons with your first 4 picks.
That's a
like
good
that.
mention.
That is a really good foundation of young players that you brought in. Now it's just the quarterback, right? Like they drafted Cade Klubnik. I don't think they have any belief that Cade Klubnik is their quarterback of the future, but they now have players and they have 3 first-round picks next year that I think are going to be used as ammo to try and go get their quarterback of the future.
Mm-hmm. No, without a doubt. Dante Moore already said he doesn't want to play for them.
Right.
Yeah.
So he went back to college.
Yeah. The Arch Manning, that's the one.
Yeah, I just think it's way too early to be plugging him in as quarterback 1. I saw multiple tweets of like, all right, let's look ahead to 2027. Arch Manning, quarterback 1. He got better throughout the year. Like at the end of the year, I think you saw the potential that everybody liked about him, but the beginning of the season still happened, right?
Yeah.
Like that Texas game where he looked completely lost. I know it was week 1. It was his first career, wasn't his first career start, but it was his first time being the number 1 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
He got better throughout the year, but I don't think we saw anything that makes you think, yeah, that's surefire QB1. Turn the card in already.
Yeah, no, that's the one that they're pointing to. So we'll see. But I was looking at a mock and I saw them having the Jets take Julian Sayin, I think, at like 7th.
Well, it's the same thing as last year. I saw a graphic when all the quarterbacks went off the board this weekend of like Field Yates round 1 mock draft from September. So this isn't a year ago. This is 7 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it had Drew Aller as a top 10 pick. It had Garrett Nussmeier as a top 10 pick, Cade Klubnik, Lenore Sellers, all the Sam Levitt. It had all these guys as first round picks. And I feel like the media and the fans are starting to do that again. It's like, oh, look at next year, Dante Moore, Arch Manning, Julian Sayin, Lenore Sellers. It's like, all right, we've done this before. Like, let's go watch them play and have them prove that they are first-round draft picks before we anoint them as such.
How many people said, oh, well, you should trade with the Giants and not draft Cam Ward.
Wait for Arch Manning next year.
And look. Drew Aller, Cade Klubnik,
right.
And look what happened to your point. It's just
unless it's one of the guys who you circle as an 18-year-old and say, when that guy is draft eligible, he's going to be first overall. It's rare, but there are some. Andrew Luck was one of those guys of like
Trevor
Lawrence. I think Caleb Williams after his freshman season was one of those guys.
Mm-hmm.
None of the guys in next year's draft and none of the guys in this year's draft were that guy. You can try and tell me Arch Manning is, but if he was Arch Smith, he wouldn't be talked about the way he's talked about, right? If he goes out and plays like Peyton Manning next year, sure, he can be the number 1 pick. But right now, the only thing that is putting him at the top of draft boards next year is his last name.
Yeah. That's what put him in the mix last year.
But hey, he's got a really good situation around him for next year.
Yeah,
they've got maybe the
Cam
best
Coleman coming in.
Maybe the second best wide receiver in the country behind Jeremiah Smith, and probably the best left tackle in the country. They've got talent around him. If he doesn't succeed this year, it's on him. Ricky on the text line says, aren't you forgetting a team? Us. I believe he means the Titans. We got exponentially better. I agree. I was trying to go outside of the Titans. I think the Titans should be viewed as one of the teams that got better this offseason, right? Like you have brought in talent with the cap space that you had. Exponentially might be a little high. Again, I think this team is going to be not one of the 5 worst teams in the league next year, which is that all you can ask for? After the last 2 years, maybe. Devin and Dixon says, I really like the Cowboys draft. Caleb Downs and Malachi Lawrence instantly make that defense better. Yeah, people were kind of surprised by the Malachi Lawrence thing, but I had seen that he was getting first round buzz. Yeah. Maybe not that high, but he's one of those like dynamic speed rushers that I think teams fall in love with, especially late in the draft process.
Yeah, without a doubt. You look, again, as we've said multiple times, there's always 40 first rounders.
Right.
And he's one of them.
And, the Caleb Downs pick, Giants fans were not happy to see And Francis Mauigoa is going to be a good player, but they're starting him at guard. So you took a guard and let your division rival get Caleb Downs.
Well, right to the Cowboys.
615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We've got one more segment here on this Thursday. We'll wrap up the show coming up next. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Wrapping up the show on this TD Thursday. Jake Lyman, Turron Davenport, Parker Kelly with you. Been a fun one today. Recapping the Titans draft, some news and notes. We got some interesting texts here to wrap up the show with. We were talking just, around the NFL, but I saw these pop up. Jared from Spring Hill. I had to eat some crow on Monday morning, TD, because I was convinced that Will Levis would not be on this team, and he still is. But Jared from Spring Hill says, is there anything to speculate about Daboll and keeping all of these quarterbacks? We saw him be loyal to Daniel Jones until overnight he threw him out. Is there any of that on the horizon here in Nashville?
No, I think you also have to remember Cam Ward is coming off an injury, and although it's trending towards him throwing at minicamp, there could be a pitch count. So you want to make sure that you have enough guys for everybody to get their reps, when I'm talking about the receivers and running backs, et cetera. And I think that's partly why Hendon Hooker was brought in. There was a chance that Levis could be traded. They didn't, and, he's still with them. But I highly doubt – they're not going to keep 4 going into the season.
I would be shocked if they keep 3.
Yeah, exactly. They're going to keep 3, and so that's why I feel Levis is going to get traded, and they're going to have Hendon Hooker kind of
practice squad,
that Trevor Siemian role, where he knows the scheme. You anything happens, you could pull him up and boom, boom. He's going to be one. Like Levis isn't passing through waivers. Somebody would pick him
right.
Up. So you can't push him onto the practice squad.
It might end up being a Malik Willis situation and it all depends on how Will Levis looks. And you talked about it last week. You're never hoping for an injury, but is there a team that's desperate for a quarterback out there?
Yeah.
Maybe he gets more, but you also run the risk of there just not being, if Levis comes out and doesn't look very good in the preseason, you run the risk of just having to cut him and cut your losses. But yeah, this team specifically, I don't see them keeping 3. Saleh talks about how much he wants to rotate the defensive line. So you think you're going to have a lot of those guys on the roster on game days. You're also maybe keeping 4 running backs, maybe keeping 4 tight ends. Like I can't see them doing the emergency third quarterback thing because I understand that they're inactive on game days, but they still take up a spot on the 53, right? They still count. So
still count.
I don't think that they're going to keep 3. Eventually, they're going to have to make some moves there. Chip from Mount Juliet says, I'm throwing a prediction out right now. The AFC South isn't that strong. The Titans will contend. I agree with the first part of that. The AFC South, yes, they looked strong last year for a while, right? Indy got off to the great start when Daniel Jones was healthy. The Jaguars went 13-4. The Texans made the playoffs. But they're pretty obvious warts with all of those teams. Colts, Daniel Jones coming off an Achilles. Is he going to be ready for the season? Will he be the same guy? We've seen quarterback struggle coming off of that injury. The Jaguars, do you know what they were doing with their draft last weekend?
Nothing.
Still my favorite quote of the weekend, James Gladstone with the smug grin on his face saying, we simulated it and we got all 10 guys that we wanted. I'm like, yeah, when you take them 100 spots before anybody else wanted to, yes, you're going to get the players that you want. And then the Texans, the CJ Stroud question is going to be one of the biggest, the biggest things that I'm looking for this season is like CJ Stroud has gone from no doubt franchise quarterback after his rookie year to, is he even going to get extended? Like, that's going to be a really interesting situation down there in Houston with CJ Stroud in year 4.
Yeah, it's so wild to think that is the case. And I think, that defense is still there.
Right.
And it's just
then
hard
they just
to
added
overlook.
Caden McDonald to that too.
Yeah, man. I think they'll be fine. They remain the
I agree.
Threat.
If I had to pick a team that's going to win the division, I would go with Houston. I think the defense speaks for itself, and I think there is some bounce back that will come for CJ Stroud. Like, we've seen him be successful at this level. I understand it hasn't looked good, but he can't just be in free fall, right? Like, eventually he's going to find some footing, and I think he's going to get back to being a decent quarterback in the NFL.
He's too good.
Will he be the guy that everyone thought he was going to be after his rookie year? Maybe not, but I think he's going to be a guy that Houston wants to extend after this year.
Yeah, I think so too. And it's almost if you don't extend him and let him go, like, what do you do at quarterback?
Right, and
because it's not like there's a pipeline of quarterbacks coming into this league. Now, the thing that's pretty cool is the last 2 years, the number one pick was a guy that you were like,
yeah,
he won't be the number one pick.
Right, came out of nowhere.
I mean? But yeah, I think that's something that you could kind of look at, but still, you can't put all your eggs in that basket.
Yeah,
and then you gotta be bad enough to be in position
right,
to get him.
and that defense isn't going to let them be bad enough to be in position to get a quarterback. The Texans are in this spot right now, heading into year 4 with your rookie quarterback or your top 5 pick quarterback, where you're a little bit in purgatory. It's like, yeah, we think he's good, but maybe he's not good enough to give him $300 million. I don't know. Like that's what Houston's going to have to deal with, Nick Caserio and DeMeco Ryans.
They're in the same exact position. If you look at this is the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence a couple years ago.
Yeah.
Like the same exact position.
Right. I mean, Trevor had last year was his best year, right? He got MVP votes last year, but that was post-extension. With CJ Stroud, I agree. You're in a spot where it's just like, man, we invested the second overall pick. Like, this is a guy that we thought, and CJ Stroud, to give him credit, has won a playoff game in all 3 years that he's been in the league. I think he's going to get extended, but it might be more of Houston just feeling like they don't have any other option. It's like, man, if we move on from Stroud, are we going to find somebody better? Probably not. Right. So the Texans are a really intriguing team this year because that defense still might be a top 2 or 3 unit, if not the best defense in the league. But is the quarterback play going to be good enough to keep them atop the AFC South? So the AFC South, I think it's going to be weaker than last year. I don't know if the Titans are going to contend to win it. One more here before we wrap up. Richie from White House, we haven't asked you, TD, what are your thoughts on Ty Simpson to the Rams at 13, especially with a guy like Mekhi Lemon on the board who you felt like could be an instant impact for a team that's trying to go win a Super Bowl this year?
Yeah, I'm not really for the pick.
Yeah.
It just kills me the way Ty Simpson could be picked at 13 and Shedeur Sanders is a 5th-round pick. I know I brought it up when we were about to get off the air, but that's just one to ponder over the next. Because you tell me that Ty Simpson is 120 or however many
picks better
than Shedeur Sanders. They wanted their quarterback of the future. I get it. I don't think that that's not a pick that I would have made, especially considering they're all in.
Right. Yes. You need to have a succession plan for Matthew Stafford. But if I was them, not to get back on the Levis thing, I would have rather traded for Will Levis and used the 13th pick. You're a team that was a couple plays away from going to the Super Bowl last year. The 13th pick could be what pushes you over the top. Now you've got a guy who's not going to help you at all this season with that pick. And maybe it ends up being the right pick and it's a Jordan Love thing where he develops and ends up being a franchise quarterback. But the Rams feel like a team that can go win a Super Bowl this year, and Ty Simpson does not help you do that.
Absolutely.
TD, always fun having you in. Appreciate your insights and excited for rookie minicamp this weekend. We'll see what we get.
Yeah, I'm excited for it, man. It's always fun to be here, and we'll keep this thing rolling. And yeah, man. Appreciate Parker with the music. Too.
Yes. Appreciate Parker. On into the offseason. Draft season is over. That does it for us. Tomorrow, Connor Newt with us at 9 a.m. But Chase and Big Joe are coming up next. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.